One. Welcome, Flames Nation, to my preview of the Lending Tree Bowl. We're going to be going through Liberty University, number 7-5 record overall, Liberty University, going up against 7-5 Eastern Michigan, 5:45 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. You already tell the visuals are a little bit different. It's because I'm doing it off of my computer versus my phone so that I can do host a Zoom meeting here. We've got my friend Chad Hasson here. He's a fellow member of A Sea of Red. For any of my regular viewers, yes, I'm still Bronco Blameyer, but my other school is Liberty University, and for them, I'm Mr. Exclamation Point. So for today, I'm going to be Mr. Exclamation Point. We're going to be going through the Liberty Bowl game here. I've asked Chad to come on because we both write for, or he runs the podcast for A Sea of Red, which is a Liberty-specific sports site started by our friend John Manson. And we're going to be running through today just keys to the game, top players, overall preview of both of these teams. So if you're an Eastern Michigan fan, stay tuned, stay around. We've got some stuff for you as well. Obviously, there's a bias here, but we've got some stuff for you as well, and we're excited to get started. So I already mentioned a little bit about Chad here. So he runs the A Sea of Red podcast, which is a Liberty-specific podcast. It's a great podcast, gives you everything you need to know about what's going on with Liberty Flames athletics, not just football, all of their athletic programs. I'm going to let Chad here talk a little bit about himself before we get going.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to preview the game. I 09 Liberty alumni, live about an hour away, and doing the podcast, being involved with Sea of Red, and just engaging on Twitter makes my fan experience a lot better. When I go to the games, I know a little bit about the players, and just makes it more fun. And that's kind of what we do this for. And yeah, excited to go down for this. Will be my second bowl trip, so I've only made 2 of them. So excited to go down to the game and be a part of the bowl festivities in general. A little bit about myself. I have three boys, 5, 3, and 1. So we're kind of running crazy around here. But yeah, I just love Liberty athletics. It kind of tied me to my experience at Liberty, and when I got there, fell in love with the sports programs, followed them throughout all 4 years, and loved every second of it, and never really stopped. So yeah, shout out to John at A Sea of Red. Back in the day, we used to meet up on a message board called flamesfans.com, and some other guys had started that. It was a message board. We met there, and he started the blog for Flames Nation, and then it's kind of evolved over time. And now Sea of Red encapsulates both of those. It has his blog site and the forums, and kind of merges them together. And he has 4 or 5 of us, writing and podcasting and doing graphics and all kinds of stuff. So it's a lot of fun, but mainly it just makes my fan experience a little bit better. So I'm a little bit more engaged and learn and know and hear and see, and yeah, mainly just do it as a hobby and to have fun with it. So yeah, that's why I'm here, and enjoy talking to you and get to hear your perspective. So that way, when I'm watching the game, I can be like, you know what, Jacob, he was really wrong about that, or yeah, he told me about that. Whatever the case may be, I can have that thought and say, yeah, we talked about this. This is really cool. So yeah, I'm glad to be here, and hopefully we can shed some light on the game and get a good preview.
Awesome. And yeah, if you're watching this and you're unfamiliar with Sea of Red, check them out on Facebook or Twitter or just online in general. It's a great source for all your Liberty-specific news. Like I said, we got the podcast, we got several articles. I write a couple articles a week for the football seasons, 3 keys to the game, and then a game summary. And we got a bunch of other great writers as well, draft info, everything's on there. So make sure you check it out. And also, if you're just coming on this channel for the first time, make sure you like and subscribe. Usually I'll be wearing my Boise State gear. I got a Boise State shirt on underneath this. But I do all college football stuff, all in general. And if Liberty's ever doing anything big, we've got a big matchup, I'm going to talk about them as well. So let's get right into it then. Liberty is favored in this one by 9.5 points and given a 64.5% chance of winning. But this is not the first time that these two teams have played. So John, you want to talk a little bit about the series history here? Sorry, Chad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, yeah, I would like to say that when I was 4 years old on October 14th, 1989, was the first time that Liberty, it was their first season as D1, and they went up to Eastern Michigan and beat their first ever D1 opponent. So I think that Eastern Michigan has a special place. If you follow any Liberty history, Eastern Michigan has a special place in Liberty fans' hearts, because it was our first time on the road with the big boys, the Division I guys, and it was our first ever Division I opponent and first ever victory, excuse me. And it happened on my birthday when I was 4 years old in 1989. So
wow.
pretty cool place in history Eastern Michigan has. As far as their series history, I'm not really sure the exact record. Do you know that right off? I can try to find
Well,
that, but I don't know.
that's the only time they played is in 1989. That's the
Oh, that
one.
was the only
That was
game.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, it's just some thoughts about that game. Sam Ratigliano, his son Paul Ratigliano is works with LFSN right now, but Sam was our head coach. I believe Sam
Okay.
coached in the NFL for the Cleveland Browns at one point. He was our first year head coach that game, and then we also had Eric Green, who was also, his number is retired. Both of those guys' numbers are retired in Williams Stadium next to Rashad Jennings and I believe Jerry Falwell Sr. So 2 of the 4 jerseys retired are both played in that game against Eastern
That
Michigan. So,
game. Wow.
um, so when you say the word Eastern Michigan to Liberty fans, it holds a very special place for that first ever. We've arrived. We're with the big boys here, and we can compete and we can win. And Sam and Eric Green were a big part of that. But also Dr. Falwell, the founder, the vision that he had. It all started right there. It's kind of like a snowball, and that snowball was kind of made there up in Eastern Michigan. And that night, I'm sure it was a cold day in October up
Yeah, it's a
there,
good place for
and
snow.
it's just kind of evolved. So, yeah, 3 of the 4 jerseys that are retired in Williams Stadium were a part of that game, and so it's a great starting point, a great reference point, a great baseline for what this program has become. So, yeah, looking really excited to see that we're a favorite in this one and just how far we've come and how far they've come, really. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a really cool look back.
Absolutely. And we have it's also something I didn't mention beforehand is I made a Facebook group because there wasn't one out there for Liberty fans called Flames Nation, and we're up to 5,000 members now. But there's several members on that page who were at that game, and they've been sharing their memories and their experiences from it. And it's been pretty incredible. Of course, the final score in that one, 25-24. So yeah, very, very memorable one for sure. Well, let's go real quick into the record review here. So these 2 schools, both 7 and 5. Kind of a little tale of different sides here. So Liberty came in with some big expectations after last season, 10-1, Cure Bowl champions, back-to-back, as Chad Sturt here says, back-to-back Cure Bowl champions, beat Coastal Carolina, the media darling. There was a lot of hype around this program early on in the season. Malik Willis with the team, number 1 draft pick, potential there, was actually being listed by some sites as potentially the number 1, not just first round, but number 1 draft pick. So I was projecting 11-1 when I was looking at the record overall, and Athlon Sports was projecting 9-3, but still better than that 7-5. And some things happened along the way, and we'll talk about that in a second here. Eastern Michigan, though, a little bit the other side of the perspective. Most people were predicting that they'd barely make a bowl game. I was saying 5-7. Athlon Sports was saying 6-6, and they've kind of not necessarily exceeded expectations so much, but they've risen just slightly above them here with a 7-5. So it's not that Liberty season is a bad season by any means, and they played a really tough schedule and they've had some great performances, but it's kind of a little bit tails coming down the end stretch here to the bowl game, a little bit of a different feel for both these programs. I don't know if you have anything you want to add there, Chad, on that note.
Yeah, I would say that before the season started, I took the under 9 wins. It wasn't a very popular take, but I would just say that, I wasn't expecting 7. I was expecting 8 or 9, right around 8 or 9. But I took the under 9 wins that Vegas had set. And mainly what I would say is, yes, we had the same roster, but I think motivation is a big factor. And coming off a 10-win season, that was a big factor. Is we've already done the 10-1 thing, been ranked in the top 25. It's very hard for a team to follow that up the second year. The second other thing I would like to say is about that point is the teams we played this year. I mean, being an independent, you never know what your schedule is going to look like. So it's not like you can go back and play 6 of the same conference teams. You're playing completely different teams, completely different stages of their program. We caught Western Kentucky last year. We caught Western Kentucky, who we thought was going to be top 25. They ended up stinking. I mean, they were awful. And then we catch a team like Louisiana or UAB this year, who we didn't think was going to be that good in terms of UAB and their record, but they ended up being a great team. So I think last year we got a little bit lucky with, played those teams at opportune times. This year we got a little bit unlucky. We played a lot of good teams in their peak seasons. So
True.
As far as expectations, yeah, when you have a 10-win season and everybody comes back and you got all the same coaching staff, you think, oh yeah, we should win 10 again easily or more. I'd just like to pause and say, look, motivation's a factor, but a huge factor in that is schedule. With the schedule being the way it is, and even next year's even harder,
Yeah.
um, and not seeing those same teams, you really don't know what you're getting up against. So I think that was a huge driving point for the coach and the AD of getting in a conference is you at least see the same people every year, and you can build those expectations. Right now, it's just throw it all in the trash, go play another 12-game season, and see who you get and what type of program they are at the point that you play them. Really can't go off of history. So expectations were kind of not met. I'd say there's 2 or 3 games that we had the better players and just
Yeah.
didn't play well. Louisiana Monroe is one of those. Again, Louisiana Monroe, they were 0-10 or whatever last year, and then they ended up winning a bunch of ball games. Bowden and Rodriguez got that thing turned around. So another team that we thought was going to be an easy win ended up beating us. So a lot of that to say that I did have high expectations, higher than what we finished, but I also was able to kind of take a step back and say, you know what, I think it's going to be under 9 wins, and kind of called that before the season. So
Well, and you also look at last year's schedule versus this year's schedule. Last year we had a couple good teams on there in Virginia Tech and NC State, and of course Coastal Carolina at the end there. But overall, this schedule was definitely much tougher. And those 2 good teams we played last year, we didn't have to play them back to back. Whereas this year we had a stretch where we played Ole Miss, Louisiana, and Army, all of which are bowl eligible teams, all of which were Ole Miss was ranked, Louisiana was ranked in 8 people. I mean, it was a tough stretch there towards the end of the season. And you're right, there was a couple teams along the way that we should have beat. I think we should have beat ULM, and I think we should have beat Syracuse. And both those games were really close. I mean, they came down to less than a possession. I don't remember the exact score, but I mean, it was less than 7 points in both of those. So, yeah, I think that along the way here, another issue when you're talking about, and we're not going to go into the whole conference talk. I've already done 3 videos on that, but you do raise a good point about when you get into conferences and positives. And I did a video recently looking at the positives. For those who don't know, Chad and I are different ends of the spectrum. I'm pretty anti or stay independent, anti-conference, and Chad's very pro-conference. But there was a positive in joining conferences that when you lose a game early on in the season, you still have something to play for. Whereas in Liberty's spot, if you don't go undefeated or get out with 1 loss, 11 in one season, you don't have a lot to play for at that point. I mean, you're going for the same bowl game, whether you have 2 losses or 3 losses. So, yeah, you raise a good point with as far as some of the positives with the conference schedule and knowing your opponents week year in and year out as well. So,
yeah, just one other thing is Coastal was fake good last year. They were ranked, but they weren't that good of a team.
they didn't play anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't play anybody. Louisiana, they were the opposite. They were nobody really knew who Louisiana was and they're a really good team. Same thing with Ole Miss compared to Virginia Tech. Last year, Virginia Tech, they were fake good. They started out ranked and then ended up getting beat by everybody and had a terrible season. Their coach gets fired. Ole Miss, other way around. They start out the season outside of the top 25 and win a few games. And when we play them, they're in the top 15. They finish in the top 10. They're playing in a New Year's Six bowl. So it's like, every team we played, whether it was Power 5 or not, seemed to we kind of hit them in the wrong year this year. But
well, and another point is we were close in all of these games. Louisiana was a larger point spread, but even they put up most of for the majority of the game, we were within 2 scores until right at the end there. And then Ole Miss, we outscored them in the second half. It's just a lot of slow starts. And I was going to kind of address this later, but I'll talk about it now. It seemed like last season, there was a lot of creativity infused in the offense, and every game seemed to be played with a little bit of a different style. Whereas this season, and I think Hugh Freeze has a very, and I obviously can't speak for him, but I can kind of analyze the actions going on. With Hugh Freeze, it seems like he has a very futuristic perspective. He doesn't want Liberty to be good one year. He wants them to be good every year. And this season, it definitely seemed like at times, at least, especially early on, that he was trying to install something. No, really matter what was going on in the game. I mean, like especially early on, we were trying to install the run game no matter what, or early on in the season, try to install the run game no matter what. And then we didn't really change up our offensive style as the season went on. I wouldn't call it a lack of creativity so much, but it definitely seemed like much more of a predictable offense. And I think it's because, Hugh Freeze's style. He wants to be a guy who has a steady run game and can throw the ball over the top. And just unfortunately with the players he has right now, with the offensive line having the issues that it has, and without having any tall, big play receivers besides Noah Frith, who was hurt for most of the year. A lot of shorter wide receivers. You just don't have the playmakers for that offense. But he wants this team to learn to install that vision going forward so that we can, when the players do come in, we have the baseline set up. That was my perspective. Obviously, I don't know Hugh Freeze personally, and I can't speak for him, but that's just what it kind of seemed like to me.
I think I think that's a valid point there. Yeah, I would agree.
All right, so moving on here, we kind of talked about it already, so I'll kind of whiz through this section real quick. I was just going to look at some of the losses, but we've already talked about them for Liberty. Key wins, there isn't a lot of marquee wins on here besides that UAB game. That was really kind of a plant your hat kind of game that we had there, and we kind of hoped that would. I thought that was going to kind of change the perspective of the season, and we were going to come out of that and maybe go on an undefeated run, and it didn't end up quite working out that way. We did have a pretty good run prior to, well, we lost to ULM, and then just didn't end up with that stretch in between. So this game here against Eastern Michigan, a bowl game, and a bowl win is a bowl win, and this will be a good chance for Liberty to get that statement win they've been missing all season. But the UAB win was nice, and then the North Texas win, I thought that was significant, the way Liberty was able to come back. As far as Eastern Michigan goes, their losses, just review those real quick. Wisconsin, Northern Illinois, Ball State, Ohio, and Central Michigan. So, not a terrible record overall as far as the teams they're losing to. Most of those are good teams. They have some good wins. They were 2-4 last year. That's another thing to keep in perspective. This is an Eastern Michigan team that was 2-4 last year. So to come out the way they did, to be able to go out and beat a Western Michigan team that beat Pittsburgh, and then, to come out and get bowl eligible, this is a big step forward for this Eastern Michigan team. I do want to call up one opponent that they actually share in common. Liberty and Eastern Michigan both played UMass. That's their one opponent they have in common. And so just looking at the stats on that one, Eastern Michigan beat UMass 42-28. Liberty beat them 62-17. UMass put up 507 yards on them. Eastern Michigan put up 507 yards on UMass. Liberty put up 604. And then Eastern Michigan allowed 519 yards by UMass, whereas Liberty held them to 284. And I know that every week there's going to be different circumstances that go into a win or a loss. It's not, you can't just compare straight across the board that it's going to be the same. Teams play with different motivations and different factors. But I think that's interesting when we're analyzing these teams and the levels that they may be at, that common opponent, where Liberty destroyed them, whereas with Eastern Michigan, it seems like UMass was a little bit more in the game. So,
yeah, I thought that Troy, we were talking about signature wins. I thought Troy was going to be a signature win. They didn't end up making a bowl game. I will say this, I found this very interesting. ESPN's FPI rating, which is Football Power Index, it kind of takes into consideration the strength of schedule and who you play. And it's a really good rating system in football where it basically says, okay, you lost to this team by 10 points, they beat this team by 20 points, and it kind of is a whole power index. In 2020, so last year, our 10-1 season, Liberty finished 76. Okay, 76 in the nation in the Football Power Index. Now, in the AP poll, we finished 17. So you can see the disparity between the power ranking and the coaches ranking in the AP poll. Now this year, we obviously we're unranked. We finished 69th in the FPI. So we finished 7 spots better. It just goes back to our conversation about the caliber of teams we played and how we kept it close with Ole Miss, how we kept it close with, not Louisiana, but Syracuse, and those teams. They ended up being better teams than last year. So if you look at the power index, I think that shows a lot of what we were just talking about. Last year finished 76. This year we finished 69. And the number of bowl eligible teams we played this year, I don't have it right on top of my head, but I think we ended up playing last year maybe 1 or 2 bowl eligible teams. Do you know how many we've played this year? I think it's upwards of 6 or 7.
I think we played 6. I don't think North Texas, unless North Texas is bowl eligible, in which case it's 7.
No, it's 6 then. So last year was 2, this year is 6. So just goes to show the disparity of the strength of schedule. And I thought that was an interesting way to look at it is this year's team actually better in the power rankings than last year's team? And last year's team was 10-1, we're 7-5 this year. So, but as far as marquee wins, Troy's really the only one that you can. Troy and UAB, I think UAB is definitely that one. But like you said, this Eastern Michigan might be the best win of the season if we win on Saturday.
Especially how we win. If if Liberty can get a big win, a couple score win on this one in a bowl game on the national. I mean, we're on ESPN. It's the first time this season that we've been on ESPN itself, the main flagship network. We've been on ESPNU and ESPN Plus and all that, but this is the first time we've been on ESPN. So, and it's 5:45 p.m. So it's not a prime time, but people aren't in bed yet. So, there's going to be eyes on us, and this could be a chance for Liberty to kind of establish themselves. Good. I view people view bowl games as meaningless a lot of times, and as exhibition games. I don't see them that way. I see bowl games, everyone is meaningful and is springboards to next season. So I think that this is a chance for Liberty to finish the year the right way. Of course, on a 3-game slump right now, they want to finish with a win, and so a bowl win in this will help set them up if they can win big, especially if players that are going to be here next season have some big moments in the game. That's going to, with all the transfers that Liberty's bringing in, it could bring some hype to the program going into the next season. And the amount of attention you have on you early in the season for a group of 5 team really kind of determines your ceiling at the end of the year. Because if it takes them half the season to even notice you, you're not going to climb the rankings. So, all right, let's go into top players here. We'll go Liberty first. We're at 20 minutes so far, and we might be at 40 minutes max on the recording here, so we're going to try and keep this to about 40 minutes total. So we're about halfway through, and I think we're going at a good pace, but let's try not to go too long on each of these. But just real quick, your top players for Liberty.
Top players for Liberty: Trayshawn Clark on the end needs to have a good game. I think Javon Scruggs, it's really evident when he's not out there. He's a tackling machine. He's in on every single play. Those 2 guys on defense, and then you got to point to Malik Willis. I mean, whether that's good or not, how much we depend on Malik, but he is a very special player. He makes plays, and if he takes care of the ball and extends plays, and honestly, if he can throw the ball away a little bit better. I don't know what all he needs to do to have a good game, but if he does have a good game, we're in a very, very good spot. So he cannot, when you're talking about key players, it's got to be those, at least Malik and Javon, and then that third one's a toss-up, I'd say. Trayshawn Clark, he really had a good bowl game 2 years ago. In the first Cure Bowl, kind of had his coming out party. I expect him to do the same here this weekend.
Nice. Yeah, those are good. And I like that you did the defensive focus because I'm a little more offensive focused this time around. So yeah, I have Malik Willis at the top of my list. Like you said, you can't ignore him. Good. I think it is probably bad that we're as dependent on him as we are. But with the talent that we've seen on our roster so far at the quarterback position, the guys backing him up, plus bringing in the Brewmeister, bringing in Charlie Brewer from Utah. So I think we're going to be just fine at the quarterback position. But people, I don't think anyone has dissed on Willis this season. Everybody realizes that it's not his fault that he's having an off year. I mean, the offensive line gets a lot of attention, and the lack of the height in the receiving core. But there has been a little frustration maybe at times with his performances late down the stretch. But I mean, you look at the way at our schedule, our record overall, we're not even in 7-5 without Malik Willis. The games that we have won have been on his back or on his legs, on his arms. So Malik Willis is definitely carrying this program, and that goes in the pass game and the running game. He's 2,626 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and 820 yards rushing and 11 interceptions. So he's the leading rusher. In fact, if you add up the other 2 leading rushers on the team, TJ Green and Mack, you add them up together, they only have like 60 more yards together than Willis does by himself. So yeah, Willis, of course, the heart and soul of this program. And when you have a player of his caliber, he's going to draw the focus, not just of the defenses, but also the offensive coaching staff. And then I have TJ Green here. It might be a little bit surprised because he hasn't necessarily been a huge part of this offense, but it's looking like that Mac might not be playing in this bowl game. No confirmed reports, but there's a couple of his family members on the Flames Nation page that are saying he's probably not going to play. So we need someone to step up and be that assist to Willis, so it's not all on him. And TJ Green has had some nice moments. He's had some really nice runs. I think that he could be a key for Liberty in this game if they can use he's got power, he's got height, he's 6'1". I think he's 210, 215 pounds. So, he's got height, he's got size, he's been used in the passing game as well. So I think he could be a key for Liberty this year, even though his stats aren't that great. Only 389 yards rushing, but he averages 5.8 yards per carry. He's only carried the ball 67 times. So I think there's a lot left in TJ Green that we can be exploiting in this offense. And then my final guy, and I think he, when you look past Willis, he's the second kind of heart and soul of this offense, is Douglas. You can't look past Douglas here. He's still listed as a freshman. Did you know that on ESPN? He's been with the team 3 years, but he's still a freshman because he had a red shirt and then the COVID year. So if he wants, he can play for another 3 years, which is crazy. But he's a dynamic punt returner. Has a touchdown on punt returns. He leads the team in receiving, 679 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. I think that he has to have a big game and be a reliable target for Willis in this matchup. Anything to add before we move on to Eastern Michigan players here?
No, DeMario is definitely electric, and he is that one guy that can take the pressure off of Malik on the offensive side, and definitely needs to do that in a big way. And DeMario, he is probably our most electric player. I'd really like to see him get the ball in his hands a lot.
Absolutely. All right, Eastern Michigan. I'll let you lead off again. Top players for Eastern Michigan.
Okay, top players for Eastern Michigan. Obviously, their quarterback. Let me pull up his name really quick. Their quarterback is Ben Bryant, transfer from Cincinnati, 6'3", big guy. He decent touchdown to interception, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. It all starts with him, I think. And then you got my cousin Hasson Boyden out there as a wide receiver. He's only 5'8", but he's pretty electric as well. He's kind of like that same DeMario Douglas speedster guy. We'll see if he can make some catches. And then I'm going defensive line, Jose Ramirez. The reason I say that is because he leads the team in sacks. He only has 6 sacks on the season. They don't get to the quarterback a lot, and if we can nullify their main guy who gets to the quarterback and gets the sacks, we're in for a very explosive day from Malik. So I think if we can keep Jose in check up there on the D line, like I said, he leads the team in sacks. He only has 6 sacks. I was just looking up their team sack total. I know it's not a ton.
I think it's 22, isn't it?
So yeah, they only have 22 sacks on the entire season, and he has 6 of them. So if we can keep him in check, then I really like our chances. But those are the 3 guys I'll be keeping an eye on. Again, that was the quarterback, the 5'8" wide receiver, whose first name is Hasson. My last name is Hasson. 1 letter difference is he has an A and I have an O at the end. And then and then the defensive lineman, Jose, if we can nullify his game, not let him get to the quarterback, I'm not sure they have anybody else that can get home, and unless they're just blitzing like crazy. So those are the 3 I'm going to be watching.
You might have seen me chuckle a little bit while you're going through the list, because that is the 3 guys that I wrote down. So you made this easy for me. That's perfect. I don't really have much to add to that. The transfer from Cincinnati there, Ben Bryant, 2000. I'll just read their stats because you kind of already analyzed them. 2,921 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's very much a pocket quarterback. He has negative rushing yards on the season. And then, the wide receiver there, Hasson there, 932 yards receiving, leads the team, 4 touchdowns, 10.8 yards per reception average. Shorter guy, but very speedy. Kind of like you said, they're counter to our DeMario Douglas. And then Jose Ramirez, 58 tackles on the season, 6 sacks. He also has 3 forced fumbles, which is big. He leads the team in forced fumbles as well. So a guy that can not only just get to the quarterback, but knows where to, knows for the ball. And this is a weird one. He also has 3 passes defended. I think it's because he's so tall and he gets there so fast. He's batting down passes, but you don't usually see D linemen with passes defended or bat downs on their stats as well. So I'm not going to add anything. I'm just going to keep moving because you kind of hit all of them right there, right off the top there. Okay, cool. So keys to the game. I'll lead off on this one, and then I'll let you come in behind me on the keys to the game. So for Liberty, I've got 3 keys, and the first one here is going to be look for opportunities in the running game. Eastern Michigan is going to have those opportunities. They give up 197 yards per game. It's not Liberty's strong point. We already talked about that. But if we can find ways to take the pressure off of Willis, teams have kind of figured out that he is our offense, and they have found ways to reduce his running abilities. I have it written down here somewhere else, but in the last 5 games, he's only gone over 40 yards 1 time on rushing, because they really found out a way to, if they can keep outside contained and have a quarterback spy up the middle, he's got nowhere to go. And Willis starts to feel trapped. He starts to push the ball downfield. into some of those double covered spots. And that's why his interception rates have been climbing. So yeah, we can take the pressure off of him. It's not Liberty's strong point, but I think that it is an added element to the game. I think TJ Green has that ability. I think that, if we can use, if we can use, oh man, I'm having a total brain blank. Oh my gosh. Stubbs. No.
Shadra Lewis.
Pedro Lewis, thank you. Sorry, I look like a terrible fan right now. If we can use Lewis's receiving abilities as like a third down back and get TJ Green, I've been calling for Liberty all year to go to a bell cow back, because the 3-back rotation worked last season, but it is not working this year. And I feel if Liberty would just get one back, give him time to get into the game, to diagnose the defenses, to get into the flow. Good running backs get better as the game goes on, because they start to wear down the defense and they start to be able to find out where those holes are and figure out the defensive schemes. So I feel like if Liberty can lean on TJ a little bit, I'm not saying go run heavy first. Malik Willis is still the key to the win in this one, but figure out a way to get that run game going, because there will be opportunities in the scheme that Eastern Michigan is running.
Yeah, I'd like to add there. This is my first key as well, but it's a little bit different take. Is not just find opportunities, but don't abandon the run game. If we're not getting anywhere on the first couple of series, I agree with everything you said there about wearing down the defense and all that. But a major point of that is, there was a lot of talk this week about offensive line coach and how many sacks we gave up this year. And a big part of that is because we're dropping our guys into pass protection so much. And I would like to see us not abandon the run game and kind of stick with it. If it doesn't work the first 3 or 4, get a few designed Malik Willis runs, get a few TJ Green carries, get a Shadro on the outside. And if it doesn't work the first 2 or 3 series, don't give up on it. Keep at it, because when you start dropping that many times in pass protection, that's a lot more opportunities for sacks, a lot more opportunities for negative plays, and then you just put yourself behind in 3rd and 11 and 2nd and 17, and I even saw a 3rd and 40 against Louisiana. So I guess my point is,
one that would start out 1st and goal and it ended up 3rd.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we scored a touchdown and had a call back for a holding. But my point is, we're going, don't abandon the run game. That's the key to the game. For the first key to the game, it kind of goes along with what you're saying. Find the opportunities there; they will be there. To me, it's if it doesn't work the first 2 or 3 series, we still got to stick with it. Whether that's find a different type of run, a draw, even I would even consider a screen or a jet sweep, any of those types of runs.
Yeah, something outside. We haven't run it outside like all year.
Yeah. So those are my that's my first key. I just wanted to mention that because it went along with yours so well. Is Perfect. Don't abandon it.
Perfect. No, that's great. That's perfect. Second key here, I have established the short pass. When you watch Liberty's offense, it's so many long breaking routes, and sometimes they don't even have an outlet receiver for him to get rid of the ball. That's part of the reason he takes so many sacks, is because the offensive line sometimes is giving him 3 or 4 seconds of protection, but that's it. And then, the defensive line is right in your face. You got to make a decision, but there should be some shorter passing games. If Liberty can work on the screen passing game, they can work on the 5-yard outs, get the slants, work the middle of the field, something that gets the pressure off of Willis, forces the defense to step back a little bit. Willis right now, he's having difficulty building momentum, and he's really on a slump here. The last 6 games, Liberty has won 2 of them. Willis has thrown 9 of his 12 picks over the last 6 games. And then 32 out of the 50 sacks that Liberty's given up, 64% have come in the last 6 games. Now, that's tougher competition. Obviously, it's the 3 worst or hardest games of the year to end to the back end there. But a big part of it is that Willis is having no time or no chance to get into the flow of the game, to get connection with his wide receivers, and to push the defense off of the rush to maybe give him some opportunities in the running game and in the passing game. So that's my second key here, is establish a short pass. I don't know if you want to present your second key here, that's great. We'll just kind of back and forth on each other here.
I think we're in lockstep here with this one too. I was basically going to say, another way to avoid sacks is quick passes or over the middle type plays. And we're either running it up the middle or tossing it deep. And I know we got to take advantage of some of those. Look, I trust Hugh Freeze's offense. He can put up the numbers. I trust his play calling ability. Yep. He knows what he has. But it seems like to me, from a very untrained eye perspective, just a guy who likes to watch football,
Right.
and I'm very frustrated on negative plays. That's what fans do. It feels like that dropping back on these 10 to 15-yard routes with everybody running routes. We have our running backs running routes. We have tight ends running routes. We have everybody running routes, and we're putting 5 guys to block for all these 10-yard. That's okay 2 or 3 times a series, 4 or 5 times a series, but not every play.
Right.
And I think that just hurts. And I'd love to see the short passing game. So I'm with you. The first one is a little bit different take on the run game. The second one is pretty much spot on with you. Is
Yeah.
not just short passing game, but be creative in the running game as well. I
Yeah.
think was kind of what I was getting at. Get Shadro on a jet sweep here and there. Screens. I don't know if we have a screen game. Slants. I don't know. It feels like that we've built our offensive line on speed. I mean, Schultz was a great pulling lineman last
Right.
year. Feels like we have a couple of speedsters in terms of offensive linemen. And we should be getting those guys out in screens and draws and things
Yeah.
like that. So mine's a little bit less about just the short passing game and a little bit more about getting those playmakers in space
Quick
and
and short. Yeah.
doing it quickly,
Yeah.
because your offensive line can hold up for 3 4 seconds, but not every single play.
Right. And yeah, that's exactly it. We look at Liberty's wide receivers and what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the deep ball going on the perimeter. And when you look at the height disadvantage that Liberty has, I mean, sometimes the corner is almost the same height as Liberty's wide receivers out there, and that's not something you want to see. But what Liberty does have, while they lack, that steady kind of AGG, Gandy Golden type receiver on the outside, what they do have is abundancy of short, fast slot type wide receivers, and those guys, you give them a ball in space, you give them a short pass, they're going to make big plays for you. And I think Liberty's game is built towards that short, quick passing game, or their roster is built towards that. So I'm glad that we're kind of on the same page on those first two keys. The third one here is bowl game creativity. You're in the bowl game, you're at the end of the season, you got nothing to hide. It seems at times that Hugh Freeze is almost kind of hidden part of the playbook for a big game that he's saving up for. I didn't think we definitely saw that part of the Ole Miss game, but it's the end of the year. If my perspective is correct that Hugh Freeze has been trying to establish something, you've had all season to do that. That's great. This is the bowl game. You got nothing to lose. You really don't. You come in here, you want to get that win, but at the end of the day is no one's really going to remember necessarily this specific bowl game, or the win-loss score. What do you have a chance to do here when you go into next season? You have a chance to build some momentum, come in with some energy, infuse that creativity that you saw last season and have at times seen this year. I would really like to see Liberty kind of fix some of the predictability and some of the stagnation that they've had this year on the offense. Nothing to lose. Just try and spark the offseason with a big, explosive final game to end the year. That's my third.
Yeah, my third key is is basically motivation. And I know my first two keys, I was kind of talking about play calling, and that falls on Hugh Freeze. Look, I will gladly give this headset over to Coach Hugh Freeze on Saturday on the sidelines. I think it's a lot harder than we make it sound with our
Sure.
quick slants and all that. But my third key is motivation. Can Hugh motivate his team to have a good game? You've got Mac obviously declaring for the draft, talking about not playing. I don't believe Mac will play. Who else will skip the bowl game? Seniors that might have an opportunity to go to a combine, don't want to get hurt and risk all that, or just guys who it takes an extra 3 or 4 weeks. They're in finals. They're seniors in college still. Takes a lot of effort to go and practice and time to go down to a bowl game, and they might just be tired and done. So will we have others? And then just motivation. But here's what I'll say. I think Freeze is 5-1 or 6-1 in bowl games. I think it's 5-1 in bowl games. And I listen to a lot of college coaches talk on bowl week and leading up to it, and there's nobody better that makes it more exciting and more special than Hugh Freeze does for his teams. His guys go down. I think it was even commented on CBS on his first Cure Bowl win. The guys on CBS basically said that Liberty was down there having a big party at Disneyland and weren't really focused, and they were going to get blown out by Georgia Southern because we weren't. And that's kind of my point is Freeze makes it a fun vacation, a pre-Christmas. He does his staff Christmas dinner at the bowl venue in that city. They'll all get together and have a big Christmas party. He makes it a big event, a big vacation as a team. You've earned this. Let's go down. Yes, we're going to try to play. Yes, we're going to try to win, but you've earned this opportunity to go down and have a fun week with your team. And I think that works. I think that resonates with college kids that feel like, hey, yeah, we've earned this. We're going to go play in this game and have some fun. So I think the motivational thing is there with Freeze, and I think that's a key to the game because not all coaches can do that. Like I said, there's a lot working towards a lot working against college football teams that are kind of middle of the road, finish 7-5, barely make a bowl game, and then now they got to go play right after finals, and they can't see their families like during Christmas break because they got to practice and all this stuff. Freeze is a master of the motivating for these bowl games. He's 5-1. I think that's a key to winning, and I think he easily gets this one done at 6-1. And I kind of gave my prediction there, but at the same time, I think that that's a huge key. And as much grief as I'll give him on for play calling and abandoning the run and not getting the creative passing, quick or hitter passing game going very well, I will say that he is the best on the sidelines when it's time to get his guys ready to play for a bowl game, and he makes it fun for them. I'll be down there and I saw them at the bowl game the first year, and the guys are just having such a blast. They were riding roller coasters, walking around Universal, having a good time, and I think that that's huge for college players playing in a bowl game. So Hugh has that right, and that'll be the reason they win the game.
I mean, it's obvious that his players love playing for him, and the way that he recruits, it's not just that he's a great coach and a great offensive mind, which he is. I talk about these offensive holes, kind of play calling holes this season. It's not a critique against Hugh Freeze in any way, or against the play calling genius that I still think that he is, or know that he is. Like I said, I think that he's been trying to establish some things, but he is a great coach, and he's definitely the best coach that Liberty will ever have. Probably in my view, because we've never had a guy like him who has come in with his experience, what he brings to the table, his personality, his recruiting ability, and Liberty is killing it right now in the transfer portal. I mean, they are bringing in studs left and right. And I have some concerns about whether that will necessarily continue at the same level when we join a Conference USA. But if anybody can keep us going at the same height, it's going to be Hugh Freeze, because like you said, no one motivates his team quite like Hugh Freeze does. So we're at 41 minutes and it's still letting me record, but I'm going to wrap it up here just in case it's like 45 minutes at the end. I'll just kind of quick hitters real quick. Any other last minute analysis you want to add, and then we'll do a score prediction. So we've already talked about it today a little bit, and I wrapped in a lot of my overall analysis as we were going through, so I'm not going to add too much in. It looks like just going off of Hugh Freeze's press conference, no outside information other than that, but Ralph Ruson's is questionable. He's really the only player that Hugh Freeze said was injury questionable for this one, so that's a good sign. We're going to have a pretty healthy roster, but Ralph's is a huge loss if he's not able. He's the rock of that defensive line there, which has been a strength for Liberty. So that could be a developing story. Talking about the stories, I would be remiss if I did not mention Story Jackson and his very, very unfortunate, the passing of his mother I believe it was last week. And she was a member of the Flames Nation Facebook page, and the community has just outpoured their support and memories of how amazing she was, and she touched so many people. And we'd be remiss if we didn't just mention briefly in passing here, at least, that we have prayers going to Story Jackson and his family right now, and everybody, the team, everyone that she touched, the community as a whole. She had an incredible impact on Flames Nation, and I want his family, and I hope that she knows that as well. But again, that circumstance, it's up in the air whether or not he's definitely going to be playing or not. It's a tough situation to come back from. And then, of course, Mac looks like he's probably not going to be playing as well. So there's some storylines here. It might not be 100% of the team that we've seen throughout the whole season, but I think that this is a Liberty team that is the better team on paper in this one. If you look at the players that Liberty has across the board, you look at the teams that Liberty has beaten Eastern Michigan this season, that level of play. I mean, you look at UAB, you look at North Texas, and I think that look at Troy and Old Dominion. Not necessarily that those teams have the same record as Eastern Michigan, but on paper, they look similar to me. Liberty has had some tough losses this year, but they've been tough losses against very good teams. You take out Ole Miss, Louisiana Army, and replace them with some middle of the level MAC teams or something like that, Liberty's probably sitting here with 3 less losses on the year. So I think that Liberty is going to have a good game in this one. I'll save my final score prediction here for after you've given your analysis. But the big question, of course, is can the O-line stand up in this one? Can Willis come in and play, within himself? Can he trust his team and not try to do too much? And can Liberty replace any players that might end up missing for one reason or another? Those are going to be the developing storylines. I'm going to let Chad go here real quick, and then we'll give our predictions on the end.
Yeah, I think the storyline for me is, can Liberty be 3-0 in bowl games, which is incredible. Bowl eligible 3 times. We've been to 3 bowl games. Can we win 3 bowl games? We do that. I think Hugh has his recruiting pitch for the years to come. So I think that's a big storyline. It's just Liberty's bowl records on the line here. It will be going forward. Is can we stay undefeated, back-to-back Cure Bowl champions here? Yeah, that's the main storyline for me. And then Malik Willis finishing his career as a Liberty Flame. He's kind of committed to playing. I'm sure the guys want to send him out on the right way. All he's done for the program and the basically how he's handled the spotlight and been so humble. Nobody deserves a better bowl game than Malik. And so I think those are my biggest 2 takeaways is, when Malik's playing on Sundays, I want to remember him as a winner at Liberty, and he has a chance to put up some big numbers against Eastern Michigan's defense. And so those are my two keys: is Malik's final game and Liberty staying undefeated.
Yep, and Liberty's in their 4th season in the FBS, and they have a chance to win their 3rd bowl game, and they've had a 10-win season already, a chance to finish. They have never had a losing season. All of those numbers, I mean, we sit here at the end of the season complaining about things that didn't go the way we thought they would. You look at that overall, I've looked through every FBS team, every single FBS team within their first 4 years in the FBS. No other team has those numbers. Liberty is achieving at a level that nobody could have projected. And so I think we should just be thankful here at the end of the season that we are at where we are, whether it was what we thought we could achieve or the level that we expected coming in. Liberty is achieving great things, and I expect that to continue going forward. And I hope it continues here with a win, a bowl game win here, which I didn't mention early. Chad said he's going to be there. I'm going to be there too. I'll be down, painted up, Mr. Exclamation Point. Excited for one last game of the season, as the rest of this team will be. So overall predictions here. I'll let Chad go first, and then I'll give my final score prediction. So final score prediction and anything else you want to say, and then I'll wrap up.
Yep, I'm looking forward to being there. I love the festivities. It's good to see all of Flames Nation that travels down there with everybody from the staff to players' parents to just really dedicated fans. It's really fun to get a little bit of a Christmas vacation early. So I love being part of bowl season, and I think that we are 3 for 3. I know you said we've been bowl eligible. We've been FBS 4 years, but we've only been bowl eligible 3. So we're batting 1,000. It's a fun game to go to. I'm really looking forward to it. And I think what I've said earlier, Malik's last game, Coach Hughes Freeze with the motivational tactics, letting his team have fun. We're pretty injury free. I look for the Flames to win big, and I'd say we're going to score close to 50 points. I'm going to go 48 to 21, 48-21.
48-21, I like it. And I think we have the capability for this to be a blowout. I think we have that. We've shown that last year, of course, and at times this season. There are some questions, some lingering questions. Mac being out is a big one for me. I was hoping he was going to have a big bowl game. While he hasn't necessarily been the heart and soul of the offense, he has been the leading rusher, and TJ Green hasn't had the opportunities, but he also hasn't shown that he can necessarily take over at the same level. He presents a little bit of a different level than Mac. I think that might be some questions. The offensive line is always going to be question marks. And Willis, it's going to be, can he pull himself kind of out of this slump and show back the classic Willis form that we saw earlier in the season where the game slows down and he makes the right decisions. I think Liberty's going to win this one, but I'm going to go a little under on the score here. I think Liberty puts up 34, maybe has a couple of red zone opportunities that don't go exactly the way they want them to, but they get the win overall, 34, and I'm going the same on defense. I think they'll give up 21 points to this Eastern Michigan team. So we're on the same page here with a win. I want it. I'm hoping your prediction's right and mine's wrong, but I just think that it's going to be a little bit of a lower scoring affair just on how Liberty's kind of handled things at the end of the stretch here. But either way, Willis gets to go out with a win. That's our prediction anyway, and ends a historic season, not historic career at Liberty that is going to take a long time to be replicated anyway. So thank you so much. Thanks so much, Chad, for coming on and talking with us. Like I said, make sure you check out his podcast, Sea of Red podcast. It's on, he's put on Twitter on the Sea of Red site. And I don't know, do you have another source for where that's streamed off of?
No, just if you go to Sea of Red, you'll find it all there.
Go to Sea of Red, you'll find it. He's on there all the time talking to John, and he has some great info. So thanks so much for watching this video. Again, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you like the Twitter and Facebook accounts for Sea of Red. Make sure you join Flames Nation on Facebook. Next time you watch my videos, I'll be wearing my typical Boise State gear, but I'm going through, this is part of my series where I'm previewing every single bowl game that's being played this season. Every one. I've already gone through 8, so this is the 8th one I've previewed this season. I'm going through every single one. So make sure you like, subscribe, and don't miss any of the bowl game action. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Thanks so much for watching this video. And we're going to call it today, Go Flames!
Go Flames!